You're on the precipice of being prime minister. He was in the corner of the room.
Massive contrast.
Where is Pierre Poilievre at? We've seen videos of him going around probably a couple weeks ago visiting the new riding that he will be running in Battle River, Crowfoot, Alberta. Him and his wife walking through the farmers' fields.
Though, eh? I'm kind of forcing my way in.
I think campaign manager needs to be reassessed, or whoever's giving advice in terms of what they're doing. But obviously on April...
Talk about the entire campaign of Pierre.
I think so. And even, I'm not sure if they're continuing with the same person.
You're really quiet. Eat your mic.
Yeah, but it's I feel like there's a gate on my mic. My volume goes in and out. So Poilievre lost his riding, as everyone knows, in Carleton, and by about 4,000 votes to Bruce Fanjoy. Unexpected defeat. I bet he was really feeling it yesterday in the House of Commons during King Charles' speech, because you have everyone in their spots, but he does not have a seat. He was in the corner of the room. So
I was trying to find a photo of that.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it.
But can you imagine for your confidence or your ego? That's not good, right? Because you're on the precipice of being prime minister, and now you're almost
massive contrast,
temporarily ousted, right? He's not down. He's not stepping aside. But that would just be a tough day, I think, to be back in that place, hearing the King's speech.
What are your thoughts? Maybe I don't know standard procedure, but does the crown usually show up when
I think this is the third time.
I was gonna say I haven't seen this often. So is this?
No, it's the third. I think it's the third time in history.
I guess the question I'm asking is, why did the King show up this time?
Well, Mark Carney invited him.
I know,
or Governor General, I guess.
Are they buddy? Is this something? Do they have a background I don't know about?
Well, he's a former governor of the Bank of England. I don't know how much. Probably
how much relationship comes from that.
Yeah, I'm sure they maybe walked in the same rooms, but typically you have the Prime Minister of England who would inform the King or Queen of all the
I just know there's going to be 90 conspiracy theories.
Yeah, but when Mark Carney was the governor of the Bank of England, obviously King Charles was not king, right?
Exactly.
And so there may have been interaction there, but it isn't interesting. I don't have an assessment as to why, except Mark Carney has said some things about our relationship with the U.S. as we know it is over, right? He's made those comments, although his sentiment was very different with Trump. He talked about the fundamentally reimagining our economy. His first trip after becoming prime minister was to the UK. Did he go to France as well? I think he did. But that was within 36 hours he was there. And no doubt he has spent a lot of time in the EU style of governance with that type of people. And under the idea of Carney talking about bolstering the Canadian economy and not being as dependent on the U.S., that type of stuff, he's for sure going to be going to the EU, even though the UK is not part of the EU.
Yep.
But there's going to be probably more dependence and diversification. We'll see. So who knows?
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure. We'll see how that plays out. But back to Pierre Poilievre. Obviously, there was Damien Carrick stepped down in Battle River, Crowfoot, and he won with 80% of the vote. That's how strong of a conservative stronghold this is. And so obviously he's resigning, which is going to trigger a by-election. He has not yet resigned because there's a couple timeline things that have to happen. If you're wondering what's happening with Pierre Poilievre, here's the timeline of what has to happen. So he has not secured a seat in the House of Commons, so obviously he can't serve as the official leader of the opposition. But after Carrick's resignation, it cannot take place for 30 days after the publication of the election results in the Canadian Gazette or Canada Gazette, which occurred on May 15th. So that occurred, what's today, the 20...
Yeah, 10 days ago.
So 10 days ago or so. So he's not going to resign for another week and a half, Damien Carrick. And then after he resigns, the Governor General must issue a writ for a by-election no sooner than in between 11 days and 180 days after the MP stepped down. So that is the timeline we're waiting on. The minimum length of a campaign as well is 36 days. So if the Governor General does issue what he needs to issue 11 days after he steps down, and there's a 36-day by-election, the earliest that this by-election could happen is August. That's assuming Mark Carney plays balls like he says he will, and the Governor General issues what they issue. So that's essentially what's happening in that place. But the other interesting thing was that, remember that committee? They're called the longest ballot committee, the one that had 90-plus names on Pierre Poilievre's riding.
99 names.
Yeah, so names. They obviously targeted Pierre Poilievre's Carleton riding. they're planning as well on targeting this next one. But we'll see if it actually makes a difference because of how such a conservative stronghold that area is.
Yeah, I guarantee you they picked that. The fact that there's 80% stronghold, that was very strategic, I'm sure, to guarantee. Because if Pierre doesn't get in, that's, man, like they're going to have to change things all around.